Welcome in, Cowboys Nation, to Game Day Live, presented by Callahan Motor Company. Dallas Cowboys get the victory 27-13. Skywalker still, Jesse Holley, here to break it down. But before we do that, Jesse and Cowboys Nation, let me tell you about our sponsor who is powering our post-game show, Callahan Motor Company, the finest, most quality-oriented pre-owned dealership in the DFW area since 2009. From sales to trade-ins to finance, you can count on Callahan Motor Company with over 150 vehicles regularly in stock with over 25 different brands. Drop by their dealership in Keller, Texas, or visit CallahanMotorCompany.com. Cowboys get the victory, Jesse, but I think we could say this one came at a costly price. We'll see exactly how costly it is after the game with the Tyler Biadasz injury. I hate to start off the show with that, but I think it's going to be a significant one if he's not around. And that's the one thing we talked about, right? Going into the playoffs, you want to go in healthy. And here we are, back-to-back weeks dealing with some things.
Yeah, I've been saying this for the last month. I have two things that I talk about. What you don't or do want to happen towards the end of the year is you don't want your team to be on the injury list, and the Cowboys have found themselves there. And this week, you look at Tyler Biadasz. All reports are saying it's a high ankle sprain, and for a receiver, that's 2 to 3 weeks, right? For a big dude who's 285, 90 pounds, and all that pressure on the ankles with anchoring down, that's 3 to 4 weeks maybe. You're talking about him potentially missing the first round of the playoffs, and then you got the musical chairs up front on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And then, there were, Nashawn Wright had one out of the game. Jaron Kearse had one out of the game. You and I both saw, Tyler Smith almost had
that
a
was
little
close.
Yeah, it was close. It was close. So, it's again, this team. And then the second thing was you want this team to be peaking. I don't know if they're peaking. I don't know if they're peaking. They won the football game. I get it. I understand it. Win by any means. Forget the covering. Forget the spread. But it wasn't convincing, and it wasn't one of those wins where you feel really, really good about the way your team performed tonight.
Yeah, it again, one of those slow starts. They did clean it up in the second half and did exactly what we expected them to do, was finish the game, and they did whatever you want to call it, cover the spread. They won by 14. I don't know if they covered it, but they won by the double digits or whatever. But it's one of those ones where it doesn't taste great after the game, and especially when you compound it with the injuries. Defensively, the one drive they gave up was frustrating, but they got the turnovers when it mattered. Shout out to Nashawn Wright, who got the interception. His first career interception. It was good to see him use that length.
And shout out to Nashawn Wright. Like, brother got a nice set of chompers, Brad. You see his teeth?
No,
You see his teeth?
I mean, I've spoken with him up close, but I never noticed it.
Jesus Christ, he was small. I was like, damn, some nice teeth. I mean, I like teeth. I'm like, I don't know if they real or they it doesn't matter to me.
I take some
money.
Right.
Nashawn Wright, you got a nice set of chompers, my guy.
Well, look, he definitely. I said Nashawn was a guy that I featured after the game last week. I thought he played a pretty good game last week against the Eagles, given everything that happened with the defense. This week, they struggled a bit in the first half with that deep ball. Not really understanding his assignment, but I thought he bounced back. I thought he bounced back very well. I know the referee said it was a pass interference on that deep route. I thought he played that ball perfectly. He played the man. They both were kind of hand fighting, got his head around, and then he pulled a savvy veteran move at the end where he realized, okay, I can't make a play on the ball, but let me get my hand up in there around his arm and kind of tussled with it. And I thought he had a fantastic second half. He tackled well. So more encouraging film for Nashawn Wright because the Cowboys are going to need him. Teams are going to continue to throw the deep on the cornerback too. They're going to continue to try whoever is opposite of Diggs, and we need those guys to be playing at a higher level heading into the postseason.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing for the secondary, and Nashawn Wright's going to be the guy they look at. They're going to stay away from Trayvon Diggs. That's just what it is, right?
Right.
When you get into that elite level status, teams kind of just decide to go away from you. And Nashawn, like this football team, you cannot have these late starts, or you cannot have these moments in the game where you have these huge laps of judgment. All right, you gave up the big play in the first half. You were still in your back pedal looking at the quarterback, and that dude's running by you. But then you make up for it in the second half. I look at this game today, and I'm thankful for the victory. But I'm also looking at this team and saying we struggled for whether it was a half of football or 2/3 of a game against backups, and that's concerning to me. I get the win and all that kind of stuff, but that's a little concerning to me. It just is. It's just something that I look at and I'm just like, boy, we find ways to make football game so much harder than it has to be for us. And it's spread out. I mean, Noah Brown had drops, and of course a Dak interception, and then you had some of the penalties, and defensively, you give up some of these plays, and even they dropped the ball, and they had some mishaps. The interception that Nashawn Wright grabbed. I'm watching the game, and sometimes I watch the game as a football player and not as a Cowboy fan, and I'm yelling at Josh Dobbs, run, run, run. And he throws an interception to Dobbs. And I'm just like, well, that was a dumb play. You could have just ran for, 4 or 5 yards, whatever, and saved yourself. But the penalties and not the penalties, excuse me, the
Yeah,
turnover. They have to. I don't care who the turnovers come from. They just have to stop, man. They have to stop. Whether it's Dak, not Dak, receivers, tight ends, pass. They gotta stop, man. It just has.
I think this is the second stint they've played 3 games in 12 days or something like that, and they're playing the Thursday game after a Saturday game. So I would expect that there to be some issues like sloppy play, but if you can get out of this without the injuries, I would feel like whatever. I would chalk it up to that. But losing Tyler Biotish, I keep coming back to that because it ended up having a 3-for-1. They had to move McGovern into center. They had to slide Tyler Smith to guard and had to put Jason Peters at left tackle. I can't express how concerning that could potentially be moving forward. And I love to see Tyler Smith at guard, but that's not how I wanted to happen, right? And then what happened immediately when McGovern goes in? I shouldn't say immediately. The next possession. Let me say that the next possession it gets thrown and they give up the sack, and that sack almost turned into Tyler Smith getting injured, compounded. And another thing is Jason Peters. I don't know yet if Jason Peters can handle what's it going to be. Hopefully like 5 games. I don't know if Jason Peters can handle 5 games of 65 snaps at left tackle. You know what I'm saying? So that injury, I didn't think about how massive it could be because at one point in time I thought it'd be Forniak being your center, right, or somebody else. But a 3-for-1 from losing Tyler Biotish is the biggest thing coming out this game for me. Before I get to some of the good things that I like from it, is that injury, man.
Yeah, huge injury. It's the anchor in the middle, and anytime you got to shuffle those things around, and my good friend Nate Newton always talks about, you hear coach talk about it, the continuity, keeping these guys together, trying to solidify the the offense as a whole. Because now, anytime you lose a starter, your backup now comes in, you can't afford any more injuries, right? It's like you've kind of almost used up your cushion now because if another guy goes
Like
down, if
Terrence.
Peters goes down, then what happens? You move Tyron back from right to left, and then you got to put Josh Ball back out there. Or if Tyron goes down, it's a domino effect that at this point in time of the year, you don't want to be shuffling dudes
No.
around trying to get trying to get your continuity together going up against these teams that are going to be really good in the playoffs. So I know that there's some good guys up front, but every time you got to start switching guys around, it kind of weakens that chain just a little bit because it takes a little bit of time to get those guys going. It takes a little bit of time to get those guys in the proper places. Communication has to be there. And it's the small things of what happens now when Dak has to get under the center. The ball comes out differently now with the new center than it did the old center. The same thing with the shotguns and the communication. So there's a lot of different things that happen in those moments where when you start making those changes, it can have a bigger effect on the outcome of football games.
Yeah, and kudos to the Titans run defense. It didn't let up in the second half. We talked about it at the halftime where they were playing well. 32 carries, so the Cowboys stayed committed to the ground as they have been for most of the year, but only for 87 yards. There wasn't really a lot of creative running. I think they kind of wanted to stay vanilla with how they ran, and you could see it in the production, right? Ezekiel Elliott, 19 carries, 37 yards. I believe that's less than 2 yards per carry. Yep, less than 2 yards per carry. Malik Davis had 39 yards, but on 23 yards on one carry. So that was a bit of a struggle there. But where things did pick up and were fine was in the pass game. Dak Prescott, aside from that one play, I still thought was very efficient throughout the day. And he found his three main guys in this game: CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, T.Y. Hilton. Lamb had 11 receptions for 100. Dalton Schultz had another 2-touchdown game. And T.Y. Hilton, man, about to start calling him third and Ty. And after seeing, Noah Brown have some case of the drops again, Jesse, and seeing that Ty got 5 targets, I'm starting to think, let's start to get him in now more as your wide receiver 3, and dare I say even wide receiver 2. But that's just me maybe getting ahead of myself here.
That Ty starting to stand for thank you. Thank you. Like, it's starting to stand for that now. It's like, oh, it's 3rd and 7. Let's run a shallow cross to a guy that can catch it up the field. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's 3rd and so. Like, hey, let's run a route where he can get it. Thank you. So Ty is gonna just start being for me. Thank you. Thank you. Because he's making all the right plays. And I think, gotta give credit to Jerry's credit, to Jerry Jones' credit. This is what he was talking about. It wasn't he was going to come in here and be what CeeDee Lamb was.
Yeah.
No, those days for him are over. Those days are him for a long over. But it was come in here and make the thank you plays that a lot of these guys at times struggle to make. So it's the third downs, and that's such a clutch money down. If you have a guy that can convert those 2 or 3 of those a game, where you're converting and keeping those drives alive, it may not seem like much. And at the end of the game, it may be like, oh, he only had 4 catches for 34 yards and 25 yards. But they were key third down conversions that may have led to scores or extending drives or time of possession being on the side of the Cowboys. Those things in the playoffs, it is so vital to make those long drives and convert those third downs, will come into play. And right now, Ty is showing that, hey, I may not be what I once was in my early days, but I can still run routes. I still got a little bit. I got some fresh legs, got a little speed left in me, but I can make the thank you plays for this Cowboys offense.
He is literally everything that Jerry Jones wanted Odell Beckham to be so bad. He wanted this to be Odell Beckham so bad, and the whole time Ty like, hey, my knees is fine. I don't need 20 million. And that's exactly what he's coming in here doing. He's available, and he's helping out the young guys in the locker room. That was one of the things when they signed him. I said, listen, I don't know what he's going to do on the field. He's an ultimate wild card because if he's healthy and he can get integrated, he can give you some things that this receiver room doesn't have. But let's just say he doesn't, right? I do know one thing. He will give you something off the field. And you heard them talk about it on air. I've been saying it for a few weeks. Then he came out and talked about CeeDee Lamb and helping him kind of adjust his routes and just kind of aid him and coach him. And then you hear them say, Kellen says he's like a coach on the field for these young guys. And we talked about this ever since they let go of Amari Cooper. They don't have a big homie in that room. They don't have the veteran, that Jarvis Landry that we wanted in the offseason when they decided to punt on getting a veteran receiver. Well, they got him now, and I think he's paying huge dividends so far in the regular season. And you got one more game. I think they could kind of get him acclimated and then turn him loose in the postseason. He's a guy that's, I don't know how many times he's played in the postseason, but he feels like a postseason player, doesn't he?
No, he just feels like a guy who knows where to be, when to be there, how to understand football at the level of what Ty understands it. Because when you go from being like Ty was wide receiver 1 in his heyday, right? So he understands exactly what a guy like CeeDee Lamb is facing. Oh, I know what it feels like to have a double team. Hey, look, in this coverage, when they double you here, do this. So when you go from being number one for a good stretch of your career and being in that top conversation to now taking a lesser role, you see the game at a different level, at a different speed. And now when you come into the game, you're getting the team's second or third or maybe fourth corner at times, while the physical number one abilities may have left you overall, the mental part of it has not. And at this point in time of the season, it's more mental than it is anything. If I know where to be, when to be there, how to be there, and all that kind of good stuff mentally, the other stuff will come along. And that's what you really want from a guy like T.Y. Hilton, is being able to see the field. You and the quarterback see the same thing. Guys are rotating in coverage, but I'm still knowing where I got to be. Again, to be Johnny on the spot when I need you to be Johnny on the spot, because teams are going to try to take away CD Lamb for periods of the game. Can those other guys like Ty, like Michael Gallup, like Noah Brown, like Ferguson or Schultz, can those guys be the ones who show up and in those necessary times when it gets real tough?
As a receiver, how about that route where on third and like 7 they stacked him behind Dalton Schultz, and it's the small details talk about. He stuttered off the line, took his time to let Dalton Schultz get up in the route, and then he I think got like 8 yards up out in the field, saw that there was space, broke it off in time. Dak gets to him, boom, first down. Little stuff like that, man. Little stuff like
That's
that.
a route running, because if I go too fast, guess what happens? I'm right on top of Dalton Schultz. We right on top of each other. There's no separation. I need to take a breath, let him go and release to get that guy to move up the field, and then I come right underneath that. So those are the small things that a veteran receiver would know, that a guy like Tolbert or even Michael Gallup or some of the guys will just rush it, and you would rush it, and that timing wouldn't be there. Dak wouldn't be ready to throw it. The defenders would be underneath it. So it's something as small as that. I'm glad you picked up on that, but you see that and you go, man, just a tick slower in his route opened it up for him significantly. It didn't have to be a big play, but on this play, I just need to get 8 yards, and we live to see another down. But it's those small things that happen throughout a game that those who know how to do it, and it makes for your offense to run a lot smoother.
I think it's so cool that him and Dak are already have a chemistry. That's nuts. He's been here for 2 weeks or something like that, and they have this chemistry that looks like it can be a factor heading into the playoffs. On top of the already ridiculous chemistry Dak and CeeDee Lamb have. I mean, I think it's official. I mean, if it wasn't already, it's apparent that Dak and CeeDee Lamb are one of the most dangerous duos, and you have to put them up there with whoever else the other duos are. I think at this point, it's his fifth 100-yard game, all 5 of them since Dak Prescott's been back. Between CeeDee Lamb and T.Y. Hilton, 19 targets, 15 receptions, 150 yards. If Ty and CD can be the go-to guys, and again, I'm asking a lot from Ty, but if he could pull Eric Weddle, right, like just come in late and just ball out for 70 games, Ty, that's all I need. But if he can be the complementary to CD, I think he's the perfect complement. Listen, y'all, don't kill me, but he's a little version of Amari when it comes to being able to be a route runner and being able to be a dependent veteran. And we saw CD be able to excel with an Amari opposite of him. But CD, Ty, and Dak is a deadly trio if they're all on the same page. And so far, so good.
I love that comparison. Like that's not a kill you comparison. That's a to be a mini Amari Cooper in a sense. And again, a lot of it comes from the mental part of it.
Yeah.
That is the crucial part for a guy like T.Y. Hilton, and the ability to take that information and pass it on and pass the torch and say, here, CD Lamb, let me kind of just help you out a little bit further in your career of being able to be with a Amari Cooper for the early parts of your career. And then now as you're establishing yourself and you're coming into the alpha maleness, the apex of this wide receiver room, now I'm going to give you some more knowledge on the back end before I get up out of here. So that's a perfect comparison. I love that comparison, and I think it's fitting for those 3 guys: CeeDee Lamb, T.Y. Hilton and Dak Prescott to kind of get their rhythm together and be able to put something together in this passing game.
Before we move on to the defense side of the ball, let me tell you guys about our turf tough matchup here. DFW presented by DFW Turf. Listen, Cowboys got the dub. Not too many things feel better than that. But if I could tell you that one thing does, it is DFW Turf. Spending hours every week mowing your lawn, spending $1,000 every year on lawn maintenance just to have a yard that dies during the summer when it gets muddy. Well, you can change all of that by contacting DFW Turf. They are the perfect lawn, and they're only a call away, the number one artificial turf company in the DFW area. Hit them up at dfwturf.com or 940-365-9165. There really wasn't a specific matchup, but I'm going to go ahead and go with this one here. The Cowboys defense against Joshua Dobbs, who, let me give my hat tip to Josh. He's never thrown 39 passes in his life in the NFL. And he did exactly what I assumed was the reason why Vrabel went with him, right? He felt like, hey, I've been around, so I know the speed of this game. Whereas Malik Willis, I don't think would have been able to do anything close to this. That wasn't a spectacular game, no, but he played within himself. 20 for 39, 232, one touchdown, one interception, and so hat tip to Josh Dobbs. Rushing wise, Tennessee didn't do well there. They were held under 100 yards, so there was that. And when it came to some of the plays made from the pass catchers, Robert Woods, I thought, made a lot of clutch catches in that game. And Traylon Burks had the big catch on the screen and then the play at the end of the game. But I thought Dobbs did solid. I mean, for his first start ever, I thought he played pretty solid against his defense. And, I can't come away from this game like, yeah, this defense was stellar, even though they held him to 13 points. That's what I expected. I'm honestly a little bit shocked that Josh Dobbs kind of looked comfortable, man.
No, he did, and we talked about just his maybe not being able to fully ingratiate himself into this team's offensive playbook. But he's a smart kid.
Yes.
He's a very, very smart.
Isn't he like a rocket scientist?
Yeah, they mentioned it several times during the game about how smart he was and what he took in aerodynamic stuff that I couldn't do if ever in life. That part is the good part. But the thing about this league and being a quarterback in the National Football League, the more experience you get, you either tend to be you either tend to get better or you find yourself out of the league. And I think with Josh Dobbs, I think he did a great job. I mean, look, in 3 weeks when when he was in there playing, he ain't throw over 100 yards in any of those games, and he came in tonight after being here for 8 days and threw for 250 or 240, whatever it was that he threw for. So shout out to Josh Dobbs. And we don't follow Tennessee as closely as Zach and Austin does, but this is probably your starter next week for the Jacksonville game for Tennessee. And he did an admirable job at it when you didn't have all your weapons. It would have been nice for a guy like Josh Dobbs to have Derrick Henry. It would have taken off some of the pressure of him having to convert some of those things when you could hand it off to Derrick Henry for a large majority of the game.
I think for the Cowboys defense, if you want to say a player of the game, it's kind of hard. A lot of their productive plays were spread out. But Nahshon Wright, I think, for the second consecutive game, led the team in tackles with 9. And that might seem bad, but if we go back again, this is off the top of my head, we haven't rewatched. It feels like a lot of those might have been just in front of him, as opposed to just deep shots down the field tackles. But he had 9 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and a pick, so he's probably a candidate for that. Dante Fowler got back on the board with his sack, and DeMarcus Lawrence got back on the board with the sack and a fumble. And I said this on Twitter, to see Donovan Wilson, I believe, got a sack, Dante Fowler got a sack, and it was one more sack I'm missing here. DeMarcus Lawrence got a sack. I think they needed to see the ball go in the hoop, Jesse. The pass rush hadn't, and again, bad offense, bad quarterback. I get it. But sometimes you just need to see the ball go in the hoop. And I'm hoping this kind of starts something back up with this pass rush.
I'm with you. I'm with you because at this point in time, this is when you need it. You need this pass rush to get back to what they were, the dominant, fearful pass rush. And Micah Parsons still strikes fear in those guys. You saw two guys jump off sides twice in the game because they're like, man, 11's locked and loaded and he's coming. I need to get out of my stance quick.
Yeah, you saw it.
But getting home again, you're not facing Josh Dobbs. Getting home is going to be crucial for them, and it's going to help the back end. It helps the back end so much more because quarterbacks don't have time to go to second and third reads. Receivers don't have time to do these long routes down the field. And I cannot say this enough. Whether it's, I don't believe it's going to be Carolina. I believe it's going to be Tampa Bay. And you know that Tom Brady, that ball is coming out in 2 nothing seconds. It's coming out quick. So you got to get home, and when you have the opportunities to get home, you got to get there, and
Yeah.
you got to make sure that is happening at a normal basis for you to be able to help the back end of your defense, and of course to get off the field on third down. Like that rush helps you get off the field on third down. So to your point, seeing the ball go in the basket, getting that feeling back again, like yo, we can still do it. I hope that carries over in the next week. And what better person to do that to than one Carson Wentz who holds the ball
Yeah.
far too long in the pocket. So let this be the kind of the dam breaker, and let next week just
The levees break on them. Yeah.
let the levee just completely shatter, and they get back to really being the sack master team that they've been the early part of the season.
On the way out here, you brought up third downs, and it made me think. So I went and looked. Cowboys defense 7 for 16 on third downs. It's not a terrible day, but again, the last drive and two drives probably inflated that. But it was a point in time where I'm like, man, they can't get off the goddamn field again. What's happening? But offensively, they were 8 for 13, and then maybe this is something we'll talk about next week in depth more. But boy, over the last 2 weeks, the Cowboys were leading the league in first and second down rushes, and they were 24th in yards per carry on those rushes. Jesse, I might have to chart this, but I swear it felt like every single first down was a run.
Yep.
A very unimaginative run. A run where it's like, hey, dog, are we watching the same game, Callan? Because Zeke ain't doing nothing on the ground. Malik Davis can't break through. The offensive line is struggling against his front, which is why I said kudos to the Titans. I don't think it got anything to do with their players. They scheme is crazy against the run. Unbelievable. It's hard to run on them. And it seemed like every first down, Jesse, we're getting a 2nd and 11, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, and then, running again, 2nd and 11, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9. It's like, God, why do we keep putting ourselves in these situations? I'm hoping, what is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, can't get fooled again. We had 3 games in a row. Isn't 3 a trend? It seems like a trend, and
you always talk about it. Dribble it with a purpose, right? Like,
there wasn't.
What are we doing? Let's not run the ball up the middle for no reason. Like let's get our runs with a purpose. Let's have some purpose behind what we're doing, and not just be doing it to do it. And at times, this is the criticism that we have with Kellen Moore, is that you go and you do things and saying, and like, what is the thought process behind what are you doing? Let's not just run up the middle for running up the middle's sake. Let's if we want to run the ball, let's do things in a creative manner that allow us to actually be productive in what we're doing, and not having to find ourselves, because the Cowboys were in a lot of third down situations today, and they got bailed out of a ton of them because of poor play by the defensive backs in Tennessee. And that is not a sustainable solution to converting third downs. It's just not. That hoping that the team that you're playing is going to have bad quarterback play, and you get bailed out of a lot of these third down situations because of pass interference calls. That's the part that comes back on Kellen Moore, and you go, man, you put your team in a very tough situation to be successful. They bailed you out a lot of it today, but that's just a tough place you put those guys in to have to convert every single time.
I think this is a game where you miss Tony Pollard. There was certain opportunities where I'm like, oh, he'd have made my man miss. And next thing you know, you're going 15, 20, 30 yards, right? And that inflates your yardage and your yards per carry. And maybe we're having a different conversation. But his worth was definitely shown without even being on the field, Jesse. But Yeah, man.
That
Just
cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching for Tony Pollard. That bag keep getting bigger and bigger.
hey, Zeke got we had 8 or 9 games in a row with a rushing touchdown, no. So he's approaching Emmitt Smith's record of 11 for the Cowboys. So I believe it's 9. I want to say 9 games in a row with a rushing touchdown. So there's that for Zeke though. Don't think we'll get the 1,000 yards though.
Maybe. You don't think? Maybe.
I think he still needs well over 100, and he only got like 30 this week.
Oh
So
yeah, he gonna need a spectacular day.
yeah,
Who knows? Next nigga might come and they may be 250-yard rushing that week next week. Who knows?
that's a good matter of fact. That's another good run defense too, though.
I
So
know.
Sunday, though, Jesse, as we get out of here, is going to be a very important day, I think, for the Cowboys. Because this is going to be interesting. On one hand, you want Philly to lose so you can play for the division, right?
Mhm.
But on the other hand, don't it feel like they need a rest? Don't it feel like some players need to sit down and this game here got me a little nervous. Just saying. Where's your head at for next week, for Sunday?
Man, I'm right there with you. At one point in time, they didn't. They had so many guys going into the blue tent. The guys had to wait outside the blue tent to go in the blue tent.
But for you, hold on. Look, pregame, we like, hey, dog, listen, we got to get into the playoffs. We got to get this momentum. We want them fighting and scrapping, but we ain't realize the fighting and scrapping come with some bruises, fam. So I don't know. I'm in the middle. I'm torn. I'm a little nervous about next week.
I'm with you. I'm torn as well because a part of me says play, keep the rhythm going, keep that fight. But you look across there and you go, man, there's a lot of folks that's gonna need some rest. A lot of folks that's gonna need to be it's gonna need that week off just to kind of get them back right. And I'm looking at number 11. I'm looking at Micah. I'm looking at depending on what happened with. I mean, Hooker was down at one point in time. Curse was
Curse.
down at one point down. Donovan Wilson was down at one point in time. We know that we lost Biotish, so I don't know, man. I don't how bad is the thigh bruise from
TP.
Tony Pollard?
Yeah.
So could 2 weeks be great for his legs? I don't know. Like it's tough, man. It's tough, but
It is. It is a weird situation, Jesse, because maybe the fight that we're talking.
Philly could put him out
Look,
of our misery and just win, and that way we go. All right,
right.
we know where we stand at right now, and that'll make the decision a little bit more easier. But if Philly don't win, then you got to go full throttle next Sunday.
You gotta play, and even if they do, though, it's still a weird situation because guess what? Now you got a whole entirely different offensive line. Do you want to say, hey, we're going to punt on giving them a game to get acclimated before you go up against possibly Vita Vea and those boys, right? It's weird. Do you say, hey, we got TY 2 games. Do we get him another game with Dak and try to get him acclimated? Do you likely Tony Pollard probably sits again? Do you try to get Malik Davis more reps? At this point, I don't even know that I play Ezekiel Elliott. He didn't look like a guy that I want to be out there playing against another stout run defense. So it is really weird. And maybe the fight that we wanted them to have going into the playoffs in week 18, maybe they're already doing it. Maybe they're already fighting, right? They had to fight last week. They had to fight this week. They had to fight against the Texans. They had to fight against the Jaguars. They fighting already, Jesse.
Yeah, too many fights though.
Too
You know
many
how
fights.
that don't always end well for you.
Yeah, they in that corner with Vaseline on their eye, one eye swollen a little bit. And he talked about I can go back in. All right. Maybe we need an extra round of rest. Uh-oh.
I'm here. I'm back.
Oh, okay, you there. All right, man. Parting shots as we get out of here, Jesse.
Man, a win is a win is a win is a win. You take it how it comes, but you know what it's going to be tomorrow. You know what it's going to be locally. You know what it's going to be nationally. This, especially the first half performance, it just wasn't. It wasn't one that was favorable. It wasn't one that gave you a ton of confidence. And you can be a Homer fan if you want to, and just say, don't be a Debbie Downer, Jess. We won, and I get it. I'm with it. A win is a win is a win is a win. But there's still a ton of things that this Cowboy team needs to clean up and to do better. So the good thing is we get it to do it again next week. But we go into this weekend with a dub. We get guys a little bit healthier. We got a mini bye.
Mini bye.
Thursday, so you get at least Friday, Saturday, Sunday to kind of get guys rested up a little bit. We hit the ground running next week and see what's in front of us. If Philly drops the ball, hey, we rough ride and we load up and we go out there and try to win a division. If Philly go ahead and do what we thought they would do and win the division, then now we make the decision on who should rest, who should play, how we should approach it, and get ourselves prepared for the playoffs.
Yeah. Excuse me. On the way out, that's where I want to kind of end it at is kind of that mini bye. I think going into this mini bye, getting the dub, you wanted to actually come out of this healthy. That was honestly the main thing. You really weren't going to gain anything by stopping this team, right? But you could have lost a lot by losing players against this team or losing to this team. You didn't lose, but you lost some players, and that is not great heading into the Week 18 and possibly the postseason. But getting this mini bye, I think, is going to be extremely important. Rest up, heal up, figure out what you need to do next week or the following week for the playoffs against the Washington football people and possibly Tampa, unless it's the Panthers. So we talk about cleaning things up, just the small little details, because you're not going to hit the ground running in the playoffs. It's not going to happen, right? You only have one game left, and you're probably not going to play that entire game. But now it's time to get back in the lab and say, I got a bag. I know I got a bag. I'm going to take this bag. This ain't overnight. This is not an overnight bag. I don't got my sweats on with my hoodie and my slides and my little overnight bag with.
It ain't the spend the night bag.
It ain't the spend the night bag, Jesse. No. This need to be a vacation bag because
okay.
you need to have the mentality that this ain't no one night only type of situation.
You checking this bag?
I'm checking.
This ain't a carry on.
No.
Let's check. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Because you understand it's a carry on week to week in the regular season. We're in the postseason. Now I got to check this thing because I got to have the mentality I'm going to be away for a while. Okay?
Gotcha.
Likely going to be a wild card team. Probably ain't coming back home. That means no playoff game. Okay? So we got to check this thing. All right? And I need, and not just Kellen. When I say bag, I mean Dan. Dan's got to go back into the lab and say, all right, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we do best with what we're dealing with.
Right.
Pack that bag, check it, and take it into the playoffs and say, win, lose, or draw, this is how we're going to win or this is how we're going to lose. Don't get in these playoffs, get skittish, try to figure things out, and try to let me feel this out. No, this is who you need to be. Whatever that bag is, this is who you need to be because it's playoff time, Jesse. And the stakes are high, the seats are hot. You can't go out of this thing and one and done, man. You might be seeing a different coach up in here if that's the case.
Well, for Sean Payton, I don't mind. But
I know. Let me talk about this next week because
okay.
I don't want to talk down on my mans, but boy, when Sean said, "Hey, dog, I got Vic Fangio coming with me," I said, "Huh? Vic and Sean? She." Hey, Mike. I love what you done with the place, Mike. But let me tell you something.
I love what you've done with the place.
Just say.
I love what you've done. I love the place.
I'll swap out this furniture in a heartbeat, man. I'll go rustic on your ass real quick. This modern look good, but I'll go rustic real fast. All right, Cowboys Nation. Look, that's our time. I'm getting tired. When I get tired, I get silly. I'll see y'all probably next week, man. New Year's, Jesse. What you doing for New Year's?
Nothing. I'll be at church, man, praising the Lord.
I can dig it, man. Look, I'm gonna see Mike Epps and those boys tomorrow, and then
Nice.
we chilling, man. We chilling for New Year's, but I'm gonna press this button on the way out. Oh, give me the pose again, Jesse. Happy New Year's, Cowboys Nation. Be safe. Be happy. You got the dub. We love you. Happy holidays. We out of here. Peace.
I'm in my zone, on the road to the Super Bowl. Every game on the schedule crucial, it take a toll. It don't matter if we at home or on the road. You try to tackle, I'll truck a sucker and take it soul. I'm staring at 4th and goal, gotta find an open hole. A linebacker just close a hole where I'm supposed to go. So now I'm thinking my centers are all pro, so I trust he can make a walk for wherever the ball go. Yeah, there's 5 seconds on the play clock. The crowd was loud, but they stopped. Now it's silent while they watch. They stand off in the red zone. All I see is red home. Watch me get this touchdown and this W and